Welcome into another Dynasty recap. We're going to be talking about Week 8 and all that went down. Some are calling it the worst NFL Sunday slate ever. We got Ryan Kapsharmer here on my left, Lucas Hoig on my right, and I might agree with them. Only one game finished with a one-score deficit yesterday. Terrible.
It was a heck of a game, though.
It was Jets-Bengals.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco versus Justin Fields, best game of the Sunday. It's not great. It's not what you are looking for. Boys, how your fantasy team's doing before we get right into it?
Rough week this week. Ran into Jonathan Taylor putting up a 40-piece in a league that I desperately needed to win in. So that was unfortunate, but I ended up sneaking one out against you, Will. So 2 and 3 across the board. That other wins in a league that I was kind of hoping not to win, though. So not the best.
I'm looking at a 1 and 2 week, so not the best for me either. I shouldn't say for sure it's 1 and 2 because in one league I'm down by 2 points. I have Rashee Rice, so obviously anything could happen there, but I feel good about that. In another league I'm up by 3. My opponent has Xavier Worthy, so I guess anything could happen there, but not looking good there. And then in the other league I just kind of got screwed by bye weeks. I feel like this was a heavy bye week kind of week, and I think I had Nico Collins. Well, Nico Collins was hurt, but I had Garrett Wilson, Brian Thomas on bye. So, yeah, just kind of got hurt by that. And so kind of got blown out, picked up some random players. And I think I picked up Marvin Mims, who had turned into a running back magically last week. So didn't like that.
Yeah. Lucas, I was a little bit tighter than you were probably expecting against my 0-7 Dick Nasty team.
Yeah, you were projected to win for a little bit there, but then I think Pittman had a nice game there, and Bijan Robinson made that scary, and I don't think either one of us wanted to head the other direction.
Yeah,
so.
I had to double click on his name to make sure it wasn't Brian Robinson.
No, I remember I looked at one point. There was at one point it was 78% in favor of me. And I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? This should not be happening. You I think have the best record in the league, and I haven't won a game in that league.
Commies came through. Yeah. We always do.
Unless Brashard Smith puts up a legacy game tonight.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true.
Brashard Smith legacy game. All right, let's go ahead and get right into it. And we're going to start off with a little panic button game. I got 3 players, a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. And we're going to gauge if we are panicked about them or not. And we're going to go with Brian Thomas Jr., Ken Walker III, and our guy, Colston Loveland. We will go ahead and kick it off with BTJ, and we're going to kick it off with Ryan. Are you panicked about Brian Thomas Jr.?
This is a tough one because he doesn't have the connection with Trevor Lawrence, and I feel like we've highlighted that now in multiple videos. His catch rate, just watch the games too. It just doesn't look good. Brian Thomas looks afraid of contact over the middle. Trevor Lawrence has just been kind of an inconsistent quarterback throughout his entire career, doesn't really have a connection with anybody on that team necessarily. So I guess you could make the argument that Brian Thomas is still in a good position from an opportunities perspective. But he's been in some trade rumors too. So I think that's interesting. If you could think of Brian Thomas being on another team because Liam Cohen didn't draft him, James Gladstone didn't draft him. So there's a chance they move on from Brian Thomas, which would be crazy considering his age and his talent. But yeah, even if he stays with Jacksonville, I'm not going to say I'm panicked about him just because of the talent. I believe in the raw ability. He was a 1,200-yard receiver as a rookie. He's 6'4", 230, runs a 4.3, can line up anywhere on the field, can run any route. I think his talent will come through eventually once he gets past whatever yips he has right now with contact over the middle.
Yeah. Lucas, you panicked?
Yeah. I'm not yet panicked, but I don't feel great about the situation. And I think my read on it is that this is going to be a scenario where whether it be 3 years from now or a little bit longer, or a little bit shorter, whenever BTJ and Trevor Lawrence break up, I think there's going to be some comments made or a little bit of drama going on there. Cause I just don't feel like they have that, connection. Obviously on the field, they don't. And then when you look at where some of these plays are coming from, like Ryan said, he's just not willing to go make the tough plays right now. And unfortunately, Trevor Lawrence likes to throw a lot of those over the middle balls where you got to go up strong, you got to come down strong and expect to get hit. And it's left a sour taste in BTJ's mouth. So completely agree with what Ryan said, though. Like, he's super talented. He's got all the traits. He's got the production from year one. And so, him, the player, I'm not too worried about, but the situation just scares me. And I hope that it's something that changes soon here. Otherwise, it's going to feel like we're kind of missing out on a few of the prime years of his career.
Yeah, I agree. I would say, like, I'm kind of just in agreement across the board. I am panicked about the situation. I really am. Like, Ryan, you touched on his catch percentage. I think last time we went over this, it was week 3. Now that we have a much larger sample size of 7 games, it's still at 49%. And I ran the numbers on that. That's the second lowest in the NFL amongst wide receivers with 50-plus targets. Next one is Jerry Jeudy, who has like a 38%, and that's Dylan Gabriel throwing him the ball. Travis Hunter has a 62% catch percentage. That's 13 points better than Brian Thomas Jr. You see the connection there is, through the first 7 games of Hunter's career, better. And yeah. I'm really worried about the situation. I just think it's also highly unlikely that he gets traded. Like, I couldn't name a single situation where a rookie for a franchise had a 1,200-yard, 8-touchdown season like he had. It's very good numbers for a rookie, and then gets traded in his sophomore season. Like, I couldn't even, like, I'm thinking, like, Brandon Cooks got traded early on pretty in his career, like, often, but don't think he ever had a season, especially his rookie season, like Brian Thomas Jr. did. Like, I've been trying to find a situation like that. Like, Odell got traded pretty young, but he was also in New York for 4 years leading up to that point, maybe 5 years leading up to that point. So I think these two are kind of just stuck with each other, at least for all of this, the rest of this season and probably next season. And that scares the shit out of me. I'm worried. I'm panicked. Button pressed for Will G. Let's go ahead and talk Ken Walker. Lucas, will kick this one off with you.
Yeah, I think it's a similar scenario to Brian Thomas Jr., where really like the player, but for whatever reason, the situation, maybe because it's the supporting cast, maybe because it's the new play callers as of late, we're just not seeing the ceiling get hit here. I'm a little bit more worried with Ken Walker just because he's on much more of a timer, been in the league for longer than BTJ has more of an injury history than BTJ does, and just generally speaking on a shorter shelf life than BTJ is being at the running back position. So I think what's unfortunate is that it's not like Ken Walker's going out there and looking bad. It's just more the role that he has right now is very limited. Like, he's not the bell cow running back that's going on there every single snap and, limited scenarios where he's getting off the field. He's more kind of like a role player off the bench, it feels like, even though he's still definitely that number one guy. So I think just with the inconsistencies, you don't really feel comfortable starting Kenneth Walker right now. And, the week that you put him on your bench is, of course, going to be the one where he goes off. So my panic there is kind of at an all-time high, honestly, for him. I was super, super high on him coming into the year, traded for him, drafted him in a redraft. Like, it was supposed to hit the ground running and be one of his best career years, and he hasn't been injured this year. He just hasn't been getting the snaps. So definitely panicking for Kenneth Walker, although still believe in the talent. So if you were to find a new scenario, a new situation, something were to change here, I think he's right back to being that top tier guy we all hoped he would be.
Yeah, a fresh start seems like evident for him, in my opinion. 3 straight. I mean, he's still RB23, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But that's RB3 numbers.
Yeah.
You're not in the top 10, you're not in the top 20, or to RB23. That's RB3 numbers. He's been sub 10 points his last 3 games. He's only got 5 attempts inside the 10-yard line this season in opponent's territory, comparative to Charbonnet's 13 attempts, which have led to 5 touchdowns. So when they're getting down to the goal line, they're taking Ken Walker out and they're putting in Zach Charbonnet, which is, that's just limiting him right there. Like, 5 of his 13 attempts, Charbonnet is scoring, which means odds are he's inside the 2 or the 1, because he's only averaging 1.6 yards per attempt on those carries inside the 10. So I'm not a big fan of what's going on, and I think that just limits his ceiling even more. You have to rely on his limited touches that he's getting already, and I really thought we were going to see the turning point this season, because those first few games, it was kind of split, and then you have Charbonnet, who went 15 carries for 10 yards. I was like, okay, clear and heavy here. This has got to be all Ken Walker, and it just hasn't been.
Yeah, I think short term, very, very panicked. Long term, though, like he is only 26 years old. He is in a contract year. I don't see him going back to Seattle. So there is a very real scenario where maybe you even have less panic than Brian Thomas, because Brian Thomas is stuck on that rookie contract. He might be, unless he does get traded, which, like you said, is unprecedented. Like he might be stuck in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence for the next 3 years. Whereas Ken Walker has a real chance to get out of there as soon as next year. Maybe he goes to a team that fully utilizes him to his ability. It's kind of like another situation. I think all three guys you put on this list, I believe in their talent as individual players so high. Like I would probably have each three of these guys in the top 10 to top 15 of their relative positions, just in terms of pure talent. So I think Ken Walker gets to a right situation and he could be, a monster in the right system.
I would agree with you there. Short term, panic button. Long term, I can see the vision for the long term here. And then last one, our boy, tight end Colston Loveland. Ryan, we'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, we follow the Bears pretty closely to the point where we kind of know all the details. I mean, he had a shoulder injury that held him out of rookie minicamp. I think he did participate mostly in training camp, but still, he's a rookie. He's 21 years old. He's one of the youngest players in football in general. So you got to give him time. He's, been kind of buried in the pecking order behind one of the highest paid tight ends in the league in Cole Kmet, and then also a lot of weapons on the outside with Burden, Zacchaeus, Rome, and DJ. So I think at one point I saw he only had like a 30% snap rate. So, I think this last week has probably been the most concerning because Cole Kmet was out and he played most of the snaps, but I can't say that I'm panicked just based off one game. I think maybe if you ask me again in a week, if Cole Kmet's out again and he gets to go against this Cincinnati Bengals defense, which is really, really bad, and he doesn't show something, especially when like other tight ends in his class, like Tyler Warren and Gadsden and other players have shown stuff. If he doesn't show something against the Bengals while getting a lot of the snaps, I think then maybe I'd be a little bit concerned specifically for the short term, but long term, yeah, I'm good with him. I really like his talent. I like his age, and then he's going to grow with Caleb and Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, just being a rookie tight end, like I think we all kind of had to put a limit on our expectations coming in here. He obviously gets the Laporta comps where, Ben Johnson used a rookie tight end that kind of feels, plays similar to Loveland and had crazy fantasy production early on. And we're just very different teams. And unfortunately right now, like we're producing a lot less just overall to our skill position players. Obviously the past 2 weeks prior to the Ravens game, Bears running backs went off, averaging a crazy amount of yards per game there on the ground. And our pass catchers just have not benefited from that, obviously. And I think we all hope to see the offense as a whole take a step up, put more points, convert more of these points into touchdowns too, which is obviously going to benefit our guys like Loveland. So I'm not panicked. I think there's definitely a little bit of a, yes, I'm a Bear fan factor in here, but I also think we've been very spoiled in the past like 3-4 years with just super high or super productive rookie years out of tight ends. If you look at Laporta, if you look at Bowers, if you look at McBride in his first and second year, and then now Tyler Warren too, like I would wager that this is some unprecedented level of tight end wave coming into the league over the past few years. And so historically, I just don't think that his trajectory right now is too far off what we'd see from other eventual top tier tight ends. So really not too worried at all. The Bears will get better. Caleb will get better. Loveland, he'll be a nice beneficiary of that. But it does sting a little when you see someone like Tyler Warren used the way that he's used right now in Indy.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I think I was the one who was saying, like, I think Tyler Warren is going to have a great rookie year. I think he's going to be productive right off the gate. I thought he was going to be more productive than Loveland in year one. So I'm not necessarily panicked, but I did think that we were going to, expect to see a little bit more here. Currently, he's on pace for 31 receptions, 328 yards, which isn't great. But if you do compare that to McBride's rookie year, McBride only had 28 receptions and 285 yards in his rookie season. Year 2 is went whoom. Year 2 was a drastic change, a huge jump in Arizona. And I really like that comp there. You know, a scrawny, tall, like 240 guy. Like, I think Loveland has like 2 inches on him, but he's still so very young. It's such a complex system and such a young offense, and they're all learning to play together. It's not, you know, they're going to come over immediately and be running what the Detroit Lions are running. He was going into a made system where people already had connections, playing with a 7-year quarterback. You know, this is, I think, a completely different situation from what we're seeing in Detroit when Laporta came into the league immediately. But yeah, I mean, you see Bowers off the jump immediately having success last year. You see Warren kind of doing that right now, and it's a unique situation because he is a top 10 pick. You expect immediate impact, but with someone as young as him and as talented as him coming into this system, I really wasn't expecting him to have a massive impact. In year 1, I thought he was going to be more involved than he has been so far through the first 7 games. But I think when you look at this plethora of weapons that this team has, on top of Kmet being a part of this system, like I wasn't expecting an immediate impact. I think this was more of a, in 5 years, this guy is going to be a superstar, and we want to take the jump on him now. So I wouldn't necessarily say I'm panicked, but we'll see how we feel at the end of the season. How about that?
Yeah, like it's not really a 1-to-1 comp either, but I mean, Rome Odunze last year kind of felt similar to top 10 pick to Chicago. Maybe it's just like a Chicago thing. It takes a little bit. Obviously, not the most productive offenses, not the highest of volumes. So I think maybe give it till next year. We'll see what's happening.
Yeah, we do have the 7th highest rushing rate in the NFL as well. So, you know, you got to take that into account. Kmet, a lot of factors here. He's only 21 years old. Let's give it some time. Trade deadline, 1 week from today. What player would you guys like to see traded across the NFL for fantasy purposes, and maybe where? Who wants to kick this one off today, huh? It was a fun
Go
one.
for it. Yeah. So not a flashy pick, but I went with Tony Pollard for this. And there's a couple reasons here. Now, I'll be the first to admit I've had way too many shares of Tony Pollard over the years. I think every league except for the one that we share, and so maybe I just need to, you know, a wise word to come down and say, hey, Lucas, not now, not him. But every league other than the one that we share, Will, I've had Tony Pollard at some point.
I traded you Tony Pollard for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, there's a little bit more going on there, but you're exactly right, unfortunately.
Yeah, I made it.
And I don't necessarily think that Tony Pollard, like I do think he'll see a production increase if he were to go somewhere like Arizona right now is the one that stands out, where they're just kind of rotating through their initial 3rd, 4th, and 5th string running backs. Maybe an opportunity to have some stability there. But really why I think Tony Pollard would be a fun one is because being someone who's had Tony Pollard over the years means I've also had my fair share of Tyjae Spears. And I would love to have a little bit more Tyjae Spears on Sundays coming out with the Rock from Tennessee there. So, you know, again, not super flashy. Neither one of these guys are going to go anywhere this season and become a 20-point per game RB1 type of guy. But right now they're both like, you know, 8 points or so you can hope and expect to get. Would love if that turned into 12 points for one or the other. And so I could more confidently put one of those guys in my starting lineup. But like I said, an ugly pick, a dirty pick, someone that, you know, I wouldn't mind if he ended up getting traded off of my own rosters in addition to his real life roster. But right now I need him out of Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go for it next. Unless you wanted to comment on that, Will. Tony Pollard.
I don't have much to say about Tony Pollard.
All right, just wanted to give you that chance. All right, I'll go for it. I'm going with Breece Hall to the Washington Commanders, and I think this is an extremely sexy pick because first off, you're getting him far away from the Jets, which I love because I mean the Jets have absolutely, to me, screwed Breece Hall for like the past few years. I hate how they've been using him. I mean, last year they had him in basically a 50-50 timeshare with Braylon Allen, which is criminal. I mean, he's like 2 times the talent that Braylon Allen is. Even this year, it doesn't feel like he's being fully utilized to his best ability. And it sucks because you'll see games where he'll score 30 points, 40 points, like this last week, for example. And it's clear that he's the most talented player on the field. But then the next game, he'll score like 5. And it just feels very Jetsy. and I need him off the Jets. And the reason I chose Washington is because they desperately need some young talent. I mean, to me, Washington's been. I don't understand how last year even happened, to be honest. Like they're just a retirement home. When you think about Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson last year was like the epitome of just mid running back play. Bobby Wagner, I know he plays defense, but still, it feels like. And then what do they do this year? They bring in Deebo Samuel, who everybody was saying was washed in San Francisco. So it just feels like for some reason they're obsessed with these over the hill players. And Breece Hall would come in there and immediately inject some youth, inject some energy. Him and Jaden Daniels would be nasty. I mean, they already have one of the top rushing attacks, and that's without any real talent at that position. I know they got Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, who I like, but let's be real, he's a 7th-round pick. And in the last 2 games, he was under 3 yards a carry. He had 2 really, really bad games against Chicago and Dallas, which I think Chicago and Dallas are 2 of the worst defenses in the league. So maybe we jumped the gun a little bit on Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt as a starting running back. I mentioned Austin Eckler before. I think his career may be over. They traded Brian Robinson. Chris Rodriguez wasn't a pick of the new front office. They've been rotating Jeremy McNichols in as well. He's mostly just a journeyman. So I think Breece Hall would come in here and immediately be like a 3-down running back type. And I also think that, like Lucas said, with the implications that it might have on the team trading him, it could also open up some doors for Isaiah Davis, which would be an interesting short-term play. But I also found this stat, and I researched this one myself. I didn't get it off Twitter, which also means it might be wrong. But I looked this up, and Breece Hall would be the 2nd youngest starter on Washington. And that includes Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, and that includes Jaden Daniels. And he'd be the 2nd youngest behind their right tackle, Josh Connery, which means he is younger than Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt. Isn't that insane?
That's insane. I would not have
That
guessed
is
that.
fucking nuts. I mean, I knew that they had the oldest roster in the NFL, and they just gave Terry McLaurin, who's like 31 years old, a shit ton of money over the next 4 years. Like, people were clamoring for that move. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense. I don't know. I feel like they really like this young rushing attack that they have with JCM here, but I would be all for that. I think you would be great. Yeah, I could get behind Breece Hall in Washington. I mean, yeah, I think he could put up some serious numbers there. I mean, I don't know.
Like, he's a rental, which might make things a little bit interesting because Washington's season might be over. But I'm more so thinking long term, like maybe they trade for him and then extend him, or bring him back. I don't see why Breece Hall wouldn't want to go back to a team that has a young up and coming quarterback and just organization in general.
He needs to get moved, though. I really hope he does. I mean, like, that would be – I think it would just be good for the Jets. Like, you're sitting at 1-7. You have these young running backs in Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. You got to move on. You could probably get, like, a 3rd-round pick for him, despite him being in a contract year. Maybe a 4th because it's a contract year, but still. That's, like, valuable capital that this team desperately needs because – I mean, I know that they just beat the Bengals on a miracle, run there at the end. But, I mean, they're just a real piss-poor team right now. So I think it would just be best of both worlds if they broke up and he gets a fresh start somewhere. Like, I completely agree with you on the talent and everything like that. I would love that. All right. My pick, which might be a little stupid considering he was wide receiver 9 through the first 9 weeks, but this is more of a long-term thing for me. I'm going to go with Chris Olave because I know that, his fantasy production has relied on him being, especially this season, the true number 1, the only number 1 in New Orleans, and he's been putting up some serious numbers. But this is somebody whose talent that I've been a fan of for a while now, and I think he could go find himself in a nice role with a competitive team, a good quarterback, a good offense, and continue to put up these numbers that you're seeing. It's not like he's putting up godly numbers. I know he was wide receiver 9, but you've got injuries mixed into that mix. He's definitely not going to finish wide receiver 9 by the end of the season. He's probably going to finish somewhere in the late teens, early 20s. But this is a guy who I think could go really hit his ceiling in a good offense. I would maybe it's not the great offense, but maybe even like New York being paired with somebody like Malik Neighbors. I know that they're looking for wide receivers. Putting him on the other side of Malik Neighbors with a young up-and-coming quarterback like Jackson Dart and an offense that, has been throwing the ball a decent amount, like even despite having a rookie quarterback, I could get behind that. San Francisco, I know, is an option. They have a lot more mouths to feed over there. I know Pittsburgh's been looking at him. I really would not be a fan of that one any way, shape, or form because it's Arthur Smith. But this is a guy I would like to just see get out of New Orleans. Like I said, despite him being wide receiver 9, and that could be kind of the ballsy pick because, hey, he's putting up good numbers, fantasy production in New Orleans. But I would like to see him go to a different franchise, just a much better franchise than the New Orleans Saints have ever been because I don't see a real, like, especially with Mickey Loomis as your GM, I don't see a real bright future over there. I know that what they've been doing with Kellen Moore has been a little bit better, but then showing some promise, being competitive, but I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel for this New Orleans Saints franchise.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right in that, like, a lot of his value just comes from the fact that he's the guy. So it's like, I feel like what's really best for Olave is that he gets a stud quarterback and they continue to beef up their offensive line. And then they also draft a running back who's, explosive and talented. And he just needs the whole offense revamped except for the wide receiver position because you just get so many targets this year, but they're not super quality. And I was happy to see, that he could have a 2-touchdown game and the Bears still won. I feel like, I had drafted Olave early on and tried to ride that wave, but after the concussions, just wasn't sure if he was ever going to reach like a ceiling. And I do think that he's a little limited, but agree with you, Will, like the talent's always been there. He's always been a producer and he gets open. So he just needs more quality targets, more of those to be in the red zone to continue to score there because when he is that main target, it's fun to see.
I mean, yeah, that's the issue. He has 13 touchdowns, and now what 2022, 2023, 2024, go 3.5 years. Like, that's not great. Like, he hasn't, it's like you said, it's not been quality play from the New Orleans Saints. They're not feasting him in the red zone. This is a guy who gets open. This is a guy who can run the route tree pretty damn well. I think he's a 3-level threat. It's, I don't think he has like a Neighbors ceiling or a Lamb ceiling, but I think he is a tier 2 wide. He could be a good tier 2 wide receiver in a good offense. Maybe the targets decline slightly, but like you said, the quality of those targets is better. He's getting targets in the red zone. That's what I want to see from Chris Olave. But at the same time, as somebody who owns Chris Olave, I can't complain because he's just getting a shit ton of targets in New Orleans.
What about the Patriots? I know I'm about to talk about them, but I could see that being interesting as Drake May is looking for a number 1 still, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys just in terms of it also kind of felt like he should have been off the Saints for quite some time now. Like, it's felt like there's been drama there with Chris Olave, specifically with Derek Carr. I think he really didn't like him, but it just seems like there's always something going on with Chris Olave and the Saints, whether he's blaming them for his concussion issues or I think it's his brother, right? That's like very loud on Twitter. Yeah. So yeah, I'm surprised he's still in New Orleans.
No, I mean, yeah, Derek Carr would get him killed. I always think about like that. Who was that going up the sideline? That Rams player. He got murdered. Just absolutely murdered. Was it Tavon Austin? That like famous big hit, or no? Was it?
It might have been Emmanuel Sanders against
Sanders.
That was Peyton to Emmanuel Sanders. Yeah.
Peyton to Emmanuel Sanders, and it was maybe they were playing the Rams. Is that what it was? I don't know, but I always think about that video, and that's how I always envision Olave just getting killed, like every time that Derek Carr threw him a fucking ball. So yeah, this is actually a good transition point because I'm excited to talk about the Patriots, and we could talk about the potential of rumors swirling. I don't think it's going to happen, but rumors swirling that AJ Brown could be in the mix here, reuniting with Vrabel. You can see here, Drake May is balling, and these guys are all getting touches, but none of them are really true right now. And like, Stephon Diggs is past his prime. Keyshawn Butte has, very young and up and coming, but I don't think he has a high ceiling. So Olave could be in the mix there as well. And then Hunter Henry, just at this point, very late into his career, but still producing at a high level. Ryan, you want to talk about the pass catchers? I want to talk about some Patriots pass catchers. Let's get into it.
I was also really close to making my trade Brian Thomas to the Patriots. I think that would be pretty insane as well. But yeah, I mean, where this all begins for me is with Drake May. And I think it's safe to say that he is a superstar. And it kind of pains me to say that because I was pretty low on him in the draft process. I think he was my QB3. Just kind of watching his film, I always thought he had that bozo gene and that he was going to be extremely turnover prone in the NFL. He reminded me a bit of Will Levis, and I feel like he still has that. Like, he threw a really bad interception against Cleveland this week. He still fumbles the ball a lot, takes a lot of sacks, but like his accuracy on all three levels, especially down the field. I saw a stat going around that he's like 200 passing yards, 100 passer rating, 7 straight games, and he joins only Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady to do that. And that's not for just young quarterbacks. That's any age, any season. So he's in elite company there. And like I said, I think it's safe to say he's a superstar. So when I think of like superstar quarterbacks, I always then kind of think like, especially for dynasty purposes, there's always going to be like a wide receiver or a tight end that's elevated because of that quarterback. And, you know, Patrick Mahomes with Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, or you like go through any quarterback. Justin Herbert, he kind of reminds me of Justin Herbert. Herbert had Eckler and Keenan Allen, Aaron Rodgers with all those receivers like Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, all those guys. So it's like for Drake May, who is that going to be? Who is that right now? I mean, he doesn't have anybody. I know you said Stephon Diggs, but I agree that he's getting a little older. He's a little bit past his prime. I think he really just showed up for that revenge game against Buffalo. And everybody was like, oh, he's back. But no, he was playing like a man possessed that game. That's not the normal Stephon Diggs. I remember I was trying to chase Kyle Williams because I thought he was going to match up age-wise with him. He hasn't even seen the field. Last year, I was chasing Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. What the hell happened to those two guys? Are they even in the NFL right now? Like, I don't know what happened to them. So the only guy that's really been consistently there the entire time is Kayshon Boutte. And like the casual fan might think like he was a 6th-round pick. He doesn't really have good numbers. But I think the people that remember, like that really remember that watch college football, they remember him as a prospect. And Kayshon Boutte, I think he was a 5-star recruit. He went to LSU and was a stud. They were comparing him to like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Odell Beckham, the LSU greats. I remember as a Bears fan, like I think that was the year we had a top 10 pick. We picked Darnell Wright. I remember seeing mock drafts where Kayshon Boutte was like a top 10 pick. So
he was
like
a projected top 10 pick until he started running trains on the personal trainers.
That's exactly what it was.
Nice.
At the Cheez-It Bowl or something like that.
At the Cheez-It Bowl, that's crazy.
Yeah, bro.
But
this dude was gonna be a top 10 pick. His last season was dog shit at LSU too. He really fell off. It was really piss poor.
That's what I was going to say. Like,
the trains came and
the character concerns mixed, if you want to call that a character concern. I don't know. I think that's kind of cool, but that mixed with some bad pre-draft interviews. But my point was that like I don't feel like anything's really popped up in the NFL. Like it's been a couple years now where he seems pretty clean. Doesn't really seem like a diva. Like when I watch the games, he doesn't like throw his helmet off, yell at the coaches, yell at the players. He's not getting into any trouble. Oh wait, did he get busted for gambling? Oh shit. I think he might have got busted for gambling. So
when was this?
Not that today? I know.
No? Okay, maybe I just made that up. But if he did, scratch everything I just said. But it's been a clean like last year or two at least for him. And I feel like he's got his head on straight. I think he's been, he's been around, he's been consistent. He has 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games, double digits in each of his last 3 games. I think he's been Drake May's guy. So my question is, like, have we just been too low on this guy? He has elite talent. He's only 23 years old. He lines up with Drake May. Do you think he's the future number 1 that's going to be elevated by this superstar? Or do you think that guy's not on the roster yet?
So I think he's going to be elevated because Kayshon Boutte to me is like a deep ball merchant, and he's going to run really fast, and he's not going to have like a full route tree. But if you get him one-on-one, Drake May's going to go his way. And Drake May just throws like one of the best deep balls in the league right now. Their like completion rate on deep balls, like you said, Ryan, like it's just ridiculous, some of the stats that Drake May has put up in certain scenarios. And so I feel like Kayshon Boutte like fills the exact perfect role that he and his skill set should be filling. And it's complemented so well by Drake May's ability to extend plays and look downfield and then put a pretty deep ball on his receivers. So I don't think that his like future, when you look back, the duo that Drake May is going to have throughout his career, I don't think that guy's on the team right now. I think the one name that comes to mind, and not in any way would I expect this guy to be available, but like Devontae Smith is someone who can get those deep routes, can take the top off the coverage, but also has like the finesse, the footwork to be that sideline target, that intermediate guy. So I think that's like the ultimate. If Devontae Smith was on the Patriots, I'd put all the chips on the table to get a share there. But again, wishful thinking there. So it's interesting though. I think he's definitely elevating all the guys, maybe except for Diggs, questionable there, but. Austin Hooper is a guy that we're putting on graphics in 2025 for a reason. Or Hunter Henry. I said Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry. They're all the same to me.
But
they really are.
Still goes. Yeah,
right. No, I agree with you. My thing is, one, touching on Kyle Williams. Where the fuck is he at, man? Where is he at? I'm getting so pissed off. Javon Baker and Jalen Polk. Yeah, I was buying stock on them last year just because of rookie connections, draft capital invested into them, but I wasn't necessarily like super high on just anything going on in New England last year with the whole coaching situation. Like I wasn't fully bought in on that, but it's good stock to buy. You get a second round pick. I think Baker was a 4th round pick. I was buying stock on both those guys last year, but Kyle Williams, I was much heavier on his stock. Like I watched a lot of his tape at Washington State. Like this was a guy I was extremely high on. He was my wide receiver 5 in this year's class. He got drafted, I think, as wide receiver 9, which is fine by me. But like I don't know, and it's like I'm not. It definitely could be on him there, but I'm just worried about like what the fuck. Like is it just McDaniels all over again? Josh McDaniels, like true. Like you think about like the last 10 years outside of like Rob Gronkowski, who was like truly fantasy relevant for them in like those prime late teens of the 2010s, like Brady years. Like who was like outside of
Edelman?
Gronk, like Edelman, like, but his regular season numbers were nothing. Like, did he even ever have 1,000 yards in the regular season? Like maybe once.
No,
like,
you're
I know
right.
he was a playoff, but like none of those guys were truly fantasy relevant. And I'm like, are we going through the same fucking shit here again? Like, is this what it's going to be again? Same thing with like the running backs. They drafted Travion Henderson. We buy all the stock in him. And then we talk about like how his workload's not necessarily great. But if you look at their running back numbers in general, like Lucas said, with like if you put Ramondre Stevenson's numbers and all their numbers and combine it into just one, it's overall not great in general. Like just what they're going on. And it's just like, are we doing this shit again with the fucking Patriots and Josh McDaniels? Like, is there ever going to be a fantasy relevant receiver? It's early. We're only like 8 games into the Drake May experience and Josh McDaniels collaboration, but I do have the concern about that because you invested like the first pick of the 3rd round. I think it was like the 1st or 2nd pick of the 3rd round into Kyle Williams. That is valuable draft capital, not immediate impact player, but I'm just pissed. Like, I'm like, what the hell? Why is this guy like not getting looks? Like,
that's why I think
get it,
the number one of the future is going to be acquired via trade or free agency because I don't know, they don't have a good track record of drafting receivers at this point,
other than fucking quarterbacks, except for Mac Jones.
And by the way, I did want to add in, Kayshon Boutte was charged in an illegal sports gaming scheme around 2 years ago now. So yeah, but charges were dropped.
Clean as a whistle for sure. I did see that he was using an alias and betting on NCAA games involving his own team, but he was cleared somehow.
But you would agree though, like he has been relatively clean since he came in the NFL. Like it doesn't seem like any of those character stuff has followed him.
The Patriots way.
He fills his role. He fills his role.
He does a good job. He's a good ball player. He is. I mean, this was a guy who was 5-star recruit, projected top 10 pick. I don't think he has like a elite ceiling, but I think he could really get some juice over the next couple of years. Maybe like a little Darnell Mooney action. How about that?
There we go.
Might even hit like that, like 800, 900 yard season a couple times. But no, I don't know if the number one is on this team, but whatever the Patriots are doing, it's working. It's good. And just in general as a team, but not fantasy wise.
I don't remember Darnell Mooney being a 5-star recruit. Projected top 10 pick, but
diamond in the rough, baby.
Yeah, we're good at finding those. That wraps it up. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another Dynasty recap. We're going to be back next week with Week 9. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks to always to Ryan Cash Sharma and Lucas Hoig. We'll see you guys then. Peace.